You mentioned the first local tax measure. Can you give me some history on how did that come about?
It started actually in the mid-'70s. Santa Clara County passed a tax initiative, sales tax, to help pay for transit, and that was in place. It was 10 years, expected, I think, to raise like $1.1 billion.
Were you there when the MacArthur Maze collapsed? I know that you were. Tell me about that experience.
4 o'clock in the morning, I get a call, and they say, we've had a bad accident at the MacArthur Maze, and that's the freeway intersection just east of the Bay Bridge. And they had a tanker truck carrying 8,600 gallons of gasoline that turned over on the top structure of a 3-level bridge there and caught fire.
Sacramento County has struggled to get something else passed. Zoom out and kind of tell me, what do you think is the key to getting back some of that public support for transportation infrastructure? It hasn't happened in the last several different attempts.
If you look at the history of these self-help counties, the one thing that is always at the top of the list is maintenance and rehabilitation of the roads.
Potholes.
That's exactly right, potholes.
Will Kempton, great to see you.
See you.
Thank you. And I'm so happy you are here. You were the top of my list of people to invite, and I know you've had some travels and things like that. We've been trying to get this one on the calendar for a while. And I mean, in the world of transportation, I mean, your resume is second to none. And so,
well, people forget. No, yeah. I've been around a long time. I was just telling your crew here that at the end of this month, I celebrate my 52nd year in transportation. So
incredible.
That's quite a long time, and it's been an enjoyable journey. And I really had no plans to go into transportation. I was actually considering a career in politics. I went to the University of San Francisco and majored in political science, and then did my graduate stuff in public administration at Sac State. But it was just by serendipity that I ended up, there was a number of people in my class at Sac State that were Caltrans employees. And they said, you should apply to Caltrans. And so I did. There were 3 job openings. I applied and got an offer. And so on October 28th of 1973, I walked in the door at Caltrans for my first day in transportation.
Absolutely incredible. And that's coming up. I mean, it's incredible. Oh my gosh. And you had to start in the San Jose area?
No, this was in Sacramento.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Sacramento. So I started at the headquarters building, and my San Jose stint came up because after I think it was like maybe 12 years with Caltrans, I was what they called an assistant director. I ran the legislative and congressional affairs operation for the department, and I wanted to be considered for a higher appointment. So that would have been like a district director or a deputy director on one of those. And we'd just gone through the fight between Jerry Brown and George Duke Machen. Duke Machen was the governor at the time, and one of my good old friends, Leo Traumatore, was the director. So I went in to talk to Leo, and I said, "Hey, Leo, I've been in this job now for a number of years, and I'd really like to move up." And he goes, "Well, Will, you're not an engineer," which I'm not. And I didn't think that mattered, but it did. And so shortly thereafter, I got an offer to interview for the first local transportation sales tax program, which was being implemented in Santa Clara County. And I interviewed and was asked to take the job, and I did. And it was probably one of the best decisions from a career perspective I ever made.
Yeah. That was that Route 87? Is that what
it was? 3 routes. It was widening Route 101. It was upgrading Route 237 from an expressway to a freeway, and building 17 miles of new freeway along the West Valley corridor through San Jose, Saratoga, Cupertino.
Yeah.
And we did we actually were in court with Caltrans because Caltrans could not deliver on the schedule that the folks wanted. It was a 10-year program, and they wanted to get it underway. It was a really small amount of dollars compared to some of the other programs that are in effect today, and the Caltrans couldn't commit to it. So we said, okay, well, we'll hire the private sector engineers to come in. Oh, no, you won't. I can remember getting poked on the chest at a restaurant in Los Gatos by the district director. We're going to do all of the design work. And well, if you can do it on our schedule, that would be great. In any event, we went to the legislature, got the ability for to hire private sector engineering, and really that built the process that's in place today, where most of the work on these programs is done by a small public agency, as you know, and they
I know
they hire the private sector.
Yeah, that is our model today.
Yeah.
Did I hear you say that you're from Sacramento? Did I hear that? Oh, okay. I mean, I've known that you've been local for a while, and seen you in the paper riding your bike on the American River Parkway but you've had positions throughout the state.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really sure that Sacramento was your home, but it is. Okay.
Yes.
Well, on that note, my first question to you, Will, it's been a few years, but you wrote an op-ed in the Sacramento Bee in which you described the Capital Southeast Connector as the Sacramento region's most important road project. And I guess my first question is that still true, Will?
Well, I don't know how I would have characterized road project versus freeways, which I think that there's
maybe you said local road project.
Something along those lines. But I still feel it's a very important project. It's been in the planning forever, and they're slowly getting implemented thanks to the good work of you and a number of the corridor cities. And I hope we ultimately get all the issues settled so that it can be completed. I had to go, and this is a personal story, but I had to go to the Bay Area about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and with the work that's going on Highway 50, which is a long-term project, as we all know, I took what would be the sort of the Capitol Corridor when it was completed. I made the mistake of going on Sunrise instead of Grant Line, which I should have stayed on Grant Line. But it just pointed to the need.
Yeah,
it's much more crowded. There's as we all know, there's more development being built and coming, and it took me quite a while to get through to get to my destination in the Bay Area. It's a connector. It's a reliever. I mean, it's not only got its own main purpose, but it also provides a significant relief, which will help with the traffic on the existing freeway system, 99 and 1050. So I think it's a much needed project.
Yeah, I mean, it's a amalgamation of several highways that were state routes planned in the 1970s. They didn't move forward. And one of the things I've said is that you can cancel projects, but you can't cancel a need. And the need is still here. It feels like the burden to fill the need has shifted from the state down to the locals. It feels that way, right? That without a state route around the Southeast County, that we're now on this burden of doing it ourselves. And yes, we have local tax measures and things, but part of me, a big part of me really believes that a project like this ought to have been a state route. I mean, you have thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, one could pursue that.
It's not going to be one today. I'm not saying that today.
But
I
don't know. I'd have to give that some thought. I've not thought about that as being a state route. But all over the state of California, state routes and state highways, or local routes and state highways, complement each other, and this would be a perfect demonstration of that that kind of a complement by providing relief on the state system through a high capacity local system.
Yeah.
And there's another feature that I think we have to be fair and recognize, and you know this better than anybody, is there are requirements that we have to go through. There is a Clean Air Act. There is, the need to comply with the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the local or regional plan. Those requirements have to be met. So I think the ultimate solution is going to need to incorporate mitigation, and you understand this. So if we're able ever to get the money, that's going to have to be a component of this.
Yeah.
And that's going to require some negotiations.
Yes, it will. Yeah. You mentioned the first local tax measure.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me some history on how did that come about? And it has now become a staple in California.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have a whole self-help county coalition. Kind of explain the origins and how that works.
Well, we have 25 self-help counties, so-called self-help counties that have sales tax measures in California out of the 58. So that's almost getting to a majority. It started actually in the mid-'70s. Santa Clara County passed a tax initiative, a sales tax, to help pay for transit. And that was in place, and they were things were going along. And then they decided, hey, we've got these huge roadway needs, so let's see if we can't put together a program to do that. So Senator Alquist, who was the senior senator from Santa Clara County, introduced the bill to allow for the county of Santa Clara, single county, to pass a measure by a sales tax to do specific projects. And that was the first program. Again, 101, 85, and 237.
85, that's what it was.
Yeah. So it passed, and we hired staff, and we were off and running. And the interesting thing about it is, I told you it was a 10-year tax. It was only over 10 years, and they expected, I think, to raise like $1.1 billion. So it may have been a large amount then, but it was not compared to what some of these other measures are producing today. But there was a sense of urgency. And so in addition to having to put in place the process that didn't exist, and getting involvement and collaboration of Caltrans. And by the way, I always used to say we succeeded there, not in spite of Caltrans, but because of Caltrans. Because once we got the legislation, Caltrans came on board, and they worked very, very positively to get the program going and oversight. And we actually co-located at a place across from San Jose, from Manetta International Airport, and it went well. And so we really had the thing all to delivery in about 7 years. All of the projects were to deliver. And that's after having to go through almost 2 years to get the legislative approval. So I think...
that feels like a different world.
Yeah, combined, I think we did a pretty good job.
I'd say so.
Yeah. And then once it was to delivery, I had a couple of offers to go do something else, and I thought, well, I've done what I can do here. So,
and then you kept going, and eventually you ran Caltrans. Will, I mean, can you? I know there's a lot to talk about here, but not to jump too far ahead. What was that like, running the state's largest transportation agency? I mean, give me some insight to doing that.
Well, I had a ball. I have to tell you, first of all, I was working for Governor Schwarzenegger, which was very interesting, and he was a character. But he and I both had, in fact, when I interviewed for the job with him, he says, I want to build things, and I said, Governor, so do I. And so we had just a great interview, and ultimately he hired me, and then he backed it up by going. If you'll remember, in I think it was 2006, he introduced a huge bond package of
I do remember this. Yeah.
40. I think it's a total of $43 billion bond package for water, prisons, and streets and roads and highways, and the biggest portion, $19.9 billion, went to transportation. And so once he had that, it was our job at Caltrans to deliver it. So we did a lot of things. It was really great to and the department was ready. The staff in the department was ready. Everybody. When I was director, I wouldn't let anybody tell Caltrans jokes. You know, they wanted to talk about people on shovels. If I was at a party, I'd go over and confront them. But because everybody was motivated. We were able to get them inspired to move forward, and that was extremely helpful. So the department worked as a very functioning team. And we got all of that work out to delivery. I think the last project, if I remember correctly, was delivered in 2013. Now that sounds like a long time to the public, but as you know, in the
Yes.
transportation projects, and that was $20 billion worth of work.
Right.
And we repaved all of the Interstate 80 from the Bay Area to the. Another story. One time I was coming back from a meeting in Reno. This was before the bill, the governor had been successful in getting the voters to approve the bill. And there was the road over the summit at Donner was just pitted with, literally ruts in the roadway from the trucks that were like 6 inches below the pavement level. And I'm driving in this little Caltrans vehicle with a CT on the side. I wanted to pull over to the side of the road and get some snow and pack it on the door so people wouldn't know I was from Caltrans.
That's hilarious.
But we did get in there, and I think we put $1 billion into that highway from that bond measure.
Yes.
And the credit goes to Schwarzenegger because he recognized that we needed to take care of our infrastructure.
Were you there when the MacArthur Maze collapsed? I mean,
Yes.
I know that you were. I mean, tell me about that experience. I mean, that had to have just been such an incredible, unique time to be faced with an emergency like that.
Well, one of the things that I told our employees, and I used to tell them, I found a way to communicate with them. We did emails had come out, and so we would do video emails where I would do every 2 or 3 weeks a video email to the entire department. And that was a good way to communicate, and they could see me. And I told my employees I wanted to shake everybody's hand. And so I was a very visible director. I would be going to a district office, and I just want to walk through the building, and I go in there and then go into a work cubicle and I'd say, "Hey, how you doing?" And they say, "You're the director." We've never seen the director before. So having that kind of relationship, I think, was extremely helpful in getting the support and all of that. But what happened at the MacArthur Maze was interesting because we were really focused on trying to improve the image of the department. People tend to be down on government in any event, but I wanted to demonstrate that Caltrans could really perform. So this was over the weekend. Like 4 o'clock in the morning, I get a call and they say we've had a bad accident at the MacArthur Maze, and that's the freeway intersection just east of the Bay Bridge. And they had a tanker truck carrying 8,600 gallons of gasoline that turned over on the top structure of a 3-level bridge there and caught fire. The steel tensile, I don't know how to say the word. The
Tensile. Yeah.
tensile nature of the steel was compromised, and the upper deck crashed onto the lower deck. And so I got in my car and drove down there in the morning, and we convened the crew and talked to the governor and everything, and he said, "We need to get that road open." I said, "I understand, Governor. We're going to do our best to get it open as quickly as we can." we had some positive experience on opening roads. If you remember the Northridge earthquake in back in the late 80s, I think, where they hired a contractor who everybody knows,
Mr. Myers.
C.C. Myers.
Yes.
He did some pretty interesting things and got the road opened in a relatively short period of time for the damage that was done. So we put into a process into place that just cut through all the red tape. We had, because of the emergency situation, we were able to forego all the lengthy environmental reviews.
You're just replacing it too, right? I mean,
yeah. It was, in any event, bottom line is we went through a process where we invited bidders as opposed to just opening it up, and Mr. Myers was one of them. And I think the project estimate, it wasn't an expensive project to do, but it was just traffic was impacted.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So we did a PR campaign immediately. We worked with the local transit agencies and everything, and got them putting extra service on the line and everything. We were very public. We were very viewable, and keeping people informed, which I think was really important and much appreciated. We went through this shortened selection process, and when the bids came in, most of and there was a reward for early delivery, and most of the bids came in, 5, 10, 15 million bucks. Myers came in with something like $875,000 because he was going to make his money via the bonus.
It's such a great story.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Anyway, and I remember when we were signing the contract, and he said, "I've already got my guys on the site." Okay, that's what I like to see. And we had. And we just worked together. We had the highway patrol involved. They ran into a permit issue at the border between Arizona, because the steel people were in Arizona, and the truck got stopped. And Myers calls me. It's like, I got to get going. They stopped our truck from a permit process issue. Anyway, so I called my counterpart at the highway patrol. We got him out there. Not only did we get the truck released, we got a highway patrol escort.
That's awesome. Get that steel here.
And we took this very seriously. And in I think it was 26 days. 26 days it was open to traffic. And I remember, because again, as I mentioned earlier, we were really concerned about the image of Caltrans. And I remember the Chronicle did a headline in a newspaper. I have a picture in my office, as a matter of fact, me holding a newspaper that says "Amazing," A-M-A-Z-ing. And so Caltrans earned I think a real positive reaction from the public. Same thing on the Bay Bridge. When we had to do the Bay Bridge, we needed to get that connector section from the new self-anchored suspension span over to Yerba Buena Island done real quickly. So we just opened the doors for innovation. So what we did, because if you had gone in there and done a regular type project, it would have been weeks, maybe months, to get a bridge put in there, take down the old bridge and put a new one in there. So we actually constructed a bridge on slides next to the old bridge. And it was Labor Day weekend. And I went to the governor and I said, we're proposing to close the Bay Bridge for the Labor Day weekend. And he kind of rolls his eyes. But basically what he says, "Can you do it?" And I said, "Yes, we can." So we did a huge publicity thing. We had people all over the place in the Bay Area. Everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
The press so if you can get the media involved supporting it, it's always very helpful. So we had the media engaged in this, and they were doing interviews all over the place. And I remember one interview that by the PR staff showed me. They went up to this couple and said, "Have you heard about the closure of the Bay Bridge?" And the people said no. And then the news reporter said, "You haven't heard? What planet are you from?" And the response was Planet Iowa.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Anyway, we
Was this all under Governor Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we built, we closed the road, demolished it in an evening, took all of the junk out, and had the new bridge already there, slid it into place, and we opened it, I think, something like 14 hours ahead of schedule. So,
Will, come on.
yeah.
Incredible. Wow, you got to be like best friends with Arnold.
Well, he sings out stuff to staff, his old staff. Yeah. I enjoyed working for him. He was an amazing character.
Incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. I don't even know how to follow up a question like that. Well, I feel like I should be asking you for like advice and mentorship here. I mean, it's, you've got in stories about delivering some of the most massive, projects in this state. Do you pay attention to dates to some of the major projects out there? Are you still engaged in some things? And
oh yeah, I'm still very interested in transportation. So I watch things. And
are you involved in any of the major projects? Are you advising high-speed rail, for example, or anything like that?
I'm not advising them. I was a member of what was called the Legislative Peer Review Group. After I left Caltrans, I went to Orange County as the
Executive director?
Well, it's called the CEO there.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and they asked me to head this peer review group. The legislature wanted a team of experts that could kind of oversee the high-speed rail operation was just getting underway, and they were developing a business plan.
Yes.
And they wanted some input and advice, and so they hired me and asked me to chair it. And then there were like 4 or 5, as I recall, experts on high-speed rail. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first review of the business plan, we weren't too enamored with it, and we said so. I got a call from a couple of local Congress people, actually, from the Valley, expressing their upset
and their displeasure.
Do that. But they went back and they did a business plan that was much more palatable, and so.
And is it being implemented today? Who knows?
No, yeah. I mean, it's a tough situation.
Yeah, no.
My personal feeling is I support high-speed rail. I would like to see the state of California have a high-speed rail operation in place. If it's public, that's great. If it's the private one that's under consideration between Las Vegas and the Inland Empire, that would be great too. But I always felt, and I'm not trying to second guess because I know they're working very hard and on it, but I always felt that they should have started at the bookends,
sure.
Meaning, at both ends, and potentially could have incrementally
I understand.
built going forward. But
yeah, I understand. Well, let me switch it up a little bit and say that I brought this Corvette for you, all right? And you and I have had some... well, we've carpooled together before, not in your Corvette, but like, what is your favorite vehicle, Will? Because I've always known you to be a Corvette guy, right?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to own 2 Corvettes. I had a C5 model, which was a 2005. It was kind of a hopped up version that had the special suspension and all of that stuff. But when you're driving on streets and normal streets, it rode pretty rough. When you got on the freeway, and if you wanted to open it up a little bit, and of course I always stayed speed.
Never.
Yeah. It rode really nicely. But I sold that, and then my wife knows how much I like Corvettes, so she saved up her money. And when I retired from the public sector, I thought I retired because I ended up going back. But she bought me a C7 which was a high-end street model, and I loved that car. It was shark gray metallic, and it was just great. I'm a little guy, so I can fit into these cars pretty readily, but they're wonderful vehicles. But then what happens is you end up parking the car in the garage. Not only do you have it in the garage, you have to put a cover over it. And then when you have to go out, because you have to drive these things or the battery goes dead because it's got like 42 computers on it or whatever. And every weekend it would be like, oh, I got to take the Corvette out and drive it. And you can't take it to the store because somebody's going to ding it.
Yeah.
You got to be careful.
Hard to go to Costco to put back some groceries. Right. Did you ever get trained on driving? I
did. I went to a place where I was able to drive it around a racetrack.
Yeah.
Which was very cool.
I worked for Tim Fleming. You remember Tim?
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. And he was into the Porsche.
And I remember his Porsche.
Yeah. And so he took me out a couple of times, but never in the race car, right? He had several different Porsches. But it always, it always kind of jogs my memory to think about racing and Tim Fleming and being out on the track, things like that.
An interesting connection back to transportation. Tim worked at Mark Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not to, Mark Thomas is good.
I worked there too.
Good firm. In any event, he was involved in the original Measure A, young whippersnapper. And
you mean the 1980s one? Is that what you're talking about?
The one in Measure A in Santa Clara County, 1985. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he...
when you say Measure A in Santa Clara County.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the name there too. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a great segue. Because Sacramento County's Measure A, we have the current version that was overwhelmingly supported, right? 2004,
right?
I want to say 75%, right, was supported.
So it was high percentage.
Yeah. I mean, now since that time, Sacramento County has, and Placer, but Sacramento County has struggled to get something else passed. Zoom out and kind of tell me, what do you think is the key to getting back some of that public support for transportation infrastructure? Because it hasn't happened in the last several different attempts. What do you think's the key there?
Well, I think there's been a change in public attitude towards taxation. So I think that's a fundamental issue that we're facing. People just think they're taxed too much.
They've had enough.
And that's probably one of the biggest impacts on these measures as we try to get more resources to build things. You take a jurisdiction like Sacramento County, and there's so many needs, but they vary. So you've got a huge population that supports transit, additional transit. Count me in that camp. I think we need to have more transit operations in Sacramento. I think Henry Lee and his crew have done a really good job of trying to hold things together, but it's tough. You got to take care of that system, and there's so many opportunities for expansion. I'm a big fan of extending light rail to the airport. That would be a great thing. I could get on in Folsom, where I live today, and get to the airport. And in any event, there's multiple demands, for different modes. But if you look at the history of these self-help counties, the one thing that is always at the top of the list is maintenance and rehabilitation of the roads.
Potholes.
That's exactly right. Potholes. That's what people want to see. So we've put a lot of money into the system here in Sacramento County, but I still drive down streets that are not in really good shape. And when I talk about transportation to other people, you go to a party or whatever, they're saying, well, look at the condition of the streets, that. Yeah. And then they get into the deal. They're spending that money on something else. And I have to tell them, look, that money is dedicated. There's a system in place. You really need to know that those dollars are being spent on what they're supposed to be spent. Same with the state gas tax. It may not be enough. The cost of doing business is going up and all of that stuff, but those monies are dedicated. And I wish that's something that I could communicate to all the voters. But I think that plays into it too. People think that they're doing something else with the dough, and I believe that's probably had one of the biggest impacts as that has grown.
The perception.
Yeah, the perception. But I think the public still wants to see those roads taken care of.
Yeah.
And but then you've got other interest groups, and I can't fault them for this. They want to see investment in transit. They want to see investment in other projects. I think the federal situation has been somewhat problematic in terms of how it's jumped around. We've had all of these major transportation initiatives. Now we're going to see a change in the next year. What's that going to be? Is it going to shift away from environmental considerations? What's the federal government under the new administration going to do relative to providing money for transit?
Yeah.
I mean, for transportation.
Yeah. I mean, California has been a big winner in the past. And, certainly in very recent weeks, there's news stories about funding being halted and being paused. And so, nobody's happy about that type of uncertainty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have to ask you, imagine that you are trying to build the Capital Southeast Connector. Imagine you're running the Capital Southeast Connector Joint Powers Authority. The state of the local Measure A and how much funding's available. Give me the advice. Well, what do I do tomorrow?
Well, I think that probably the best source of funding that's out there right now would be state and or federal funding. I don't know that there's going to be, a measure anytime soon that's successful that brings a substantial dollar amount in. In our latest one that we worked on, we had, I think, $300 million in there for the Southeast Connector. What I would focus on, in addition to getting our state and federal representatives geared up to bring in more money, and you got $25 million here just recently from Congressman Kiley.
It was Barra.
I'm sorry, Congressman Barra. Excuse me, Mommy, Congressman Barra. I would not stop those efforts, because I think, again, that's going to be where, at least in the nearer term, we get some of those funds. But I would be working on the mitigation side.
Okay.
I would be looking to say, okay, what can we let's. It never helps on a transportation project when you have conflict at the local level, particularly if you're going after federal and state funds. If you can get the local level together, that is, I think, a big part of the equation. So I know you're having those discussions, and I think that if we could get some unanimity on support for the project, I think the general public is there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You told some of your story about the wanting it all done in urgency, 10 years down in Santa Clara, and you're doing it in 7. Here I've got people saying, we've been talking about this since the 70s. Yeah. And I want to build the connector in 7 years, right? Like, that's what I want. Yeah. And it's so. Sometimes it's a little discouraging to be like, well, we got a couple $1 million, right, out of Measure A. The largest allocation out of Measure A we've ever received was $24.6 million. That's not building a 34-mile expressway, and so I'm just kind of lamenting here with you, but it's like we look at federal, we look at state, we look at regional, local, and it's just hard to cobble the dollars necessary for such a large regional project. And I'm open to all suggestions. People have asked me about tolling. That's not exactly a popular solution. That's not a popular solution. But also, I don't even think it would pencil out. I don't think that the demand would be there that you could even finance something like this. And so more recently, we have the interregional transportation improvement plan, and they're talking about putting, bike highways into interregional plans. I'm thinking, well, we've got a 34-mile Class 1 bikeway. Maybe we need to start, tackling some of those improvements and, just doing whatever we can, right? Showcasing that, yes, we're committed to mitigation. Yes, we're committed to alternative modes in the bike facilities. And then, I don't know, turning over the couch cushions for the roadway capacity.
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a limitation, but you have to operate with respect to the money that's coming from the local measure, sales tax measure. You've got to operate within the parameters of the expenditure plan too, and so it's got some limitations that impact, the ability to take a whole bunch of money up front because the expenditure plan is pretty specific in how those dollars get spent. And that's an appropriate thing in my view, and having that accountability. I was talking to a young student. I'm on the board of the Minetta Transportation Institute, and they do master's programs. And this young lady was referred to me to talk about. She wanted to talk about sales tax programs. So she called me up, and we were talking about implementing programs, having somewhat of a similar conversation to what we're talking about right now. But she was curious about the fact she raised the issue of accountability. And I said, that's a very good point, because all of these programs, to my knowledge, in the state have an oversight committee that includes some pretty, we have some good representation on our oversight committee here in Sacramento County, and they do a good job of keeping on top of it. But one of the things that we don't do, this young lady and I concluded, is we don't publicize our accountability efforts. And so we came up with a little slogan. We needed to make our accountability efforts more visible. So visibility for accountability. I don't know what.
There you go.
Because people need to know that money is being looked after. It's being, that it's being spent as it's supposed to be spent, and we should be publicizing that. Seems to me, getting that word out.
I'm thinking in my head as you're saying the Road Repair and Accountability Act, Senate Bill 1, right? How important it is. Yeah. And, one of the things we do is we submit our quarterly reports, and I know they're all up on the website and things like that, but you're right. We could do a better job at showcasing the quarterly updates and progress and what we do to these citizens or taxpayer oversight committee. It's incredibly important.
Yeah.
We've been talking for, almost 40 minutes, and I want to ask, and I kind of go to this, and we'll wrap it up, but you're from Sacramento. You're the head of Caltrans, or you were the head of Caltrans. You're, transportation through and through. What would be one of the major improvements in Sacramento from a traffic perspective, a transportation perspective? People have always asked me about a connection from, 50 to 80 as like the kind of that missing link. Zoom out. Is there a star project or something that you think that Sacramento really needs that we could look towards?
Yeah. I don't think that project, and by the way, I was actually working at Caltrans when for the director that canceled those freeway plans that would have provided for that connection. I don't think that's in the cards. I think you will maybe see high level arterials, local arterials in there. Hazel, Sierra College Boulevard, those kinds of connections. But I don't see.
Of course not.
No, and it really raises the question as to whether or not we're going to see any kind of significant freeway construction in across the country. I mean, and we're going to be taking care of the existing system. We're going to be looking at newer or innovative ways to try to increase capacity where it's needed. The development of alternate modes is something that is going to be extremely important as well in all of this. So I don't know that there's one particular facility that stands out in my mind. What I will say is what we need to move forward and to really enhance our chances of getting funding is unanimity. I mentioned you just talked about that a few moments ago, where we're not in sync. Mm-hmm. You've got disagreements on what needs to be built, and that has an impact on the ability to get money. If we can come together as a region and be supportive of a system that everybody agrees to. I will go back to the example you said. You did your projects 7 years or a 10-year time frame, and why were we successful? Because we built unanimity in the community. I had to go to a lot of community meetings where there were literally hundreds and hundreds of people in a gymnasium in a high school talking to people that were not happy that this freeway was going to go right in their backyard.
Oh my gosh, what a different world.
Yeah, but we had the ability, because we were operating sort of outside the state limits, to be able to accommodate concerns and issues and respond. And so we built that community support for those projects, and that unanimity was absolutely essential in being able to do what we did in the time we did it.
Well said. Well said. Well, Mr. Kempton, it is my pleasure, my honor to have you here, and thank you so much for your time. It's truly been fantastic to know you, to learn from you, and thank you for your decades of service to transportation in California. Thank you again for being here.
Okay. Thanks, Jared.
All right.